Yo, what's up? Sir Toby here, back with one of my nowadays rare videos. This time I really want to talk about Sanctum because I have been having a blast running Sanctum these last few days and I've been making absolute bank as well. And I thought I would share some of the findings that I had for myself with everyone else because I've seen a ton of Sanctum guides out there that are talking about how do you run Sanctum, like how does it work, but I haven't really seen any ideas about min-maxing your relic slots, and I think that you can at least, if not more than, double your income from sanctums by just adding the right relics and the right unique relic as well, for your strat, for your build, and for your budget level. So in this video, first I'm going to talk a little bit about what I've been doing in Sanctum myself, what build I've been playing. Then I'm going to talk about builds in general. Then about what relics you can use, and then about what unique relics I personally think are best suited for general running in Sanctums. As you can see, for example, I've been really enjoying using the Blood of Innocence because it pretty much is just a free one divine balance of terrors if you self identify it at the end for absolutely no cost or effort. If your build is good enough, like mine is, because I'm currently dealing like 100 million damage total with my Shockwave Totem build, which is complete overkill, and no matter which afflictions I get, I can just nuke down even the buffed Lycia at the end of Sanctum. Alright, let's talk about what I've been doing and what I've been focusing on. So, personally, I started out with just using like generic Sanctum relics like gain inspiration when you receive an affliction, or gain maximum resolve when you kill a boss, or monsters take increased damage, just so I could do Sanctums reasonably well, get back in the groove of Sanctum. I loved Sanctum back in Sanctum League, but they changed quite a few things, made it quite a lot harder, and I had trouble at the start getting really like into it, getting really the hang of some of these rooms, especially in the fourth floor. There's very bad, very hard rooms in my opinion, that you really have to get used to and that you really need the right builds for. So, as I said, first I started with generic relics, and then I found out that if you use increased quantity of relics dropped by monsters, this also applies to the unique relic at the end of the Lycia fight. So currently I'm running 3, which is pretty much the maximum, increased quantity of relics dropped by monsters with the absolute max roll, which is 25%. These 3 all cost me 2 divines to buy of the trade side, and I now have a 75% chance to get 2 relics from Lycia at the end instead of 1. And also, I have a 75% increased quantity of relics in general, which means that I have a lot better chance at getting good relics that I can sell. What does this mean? This means that I got, I think, 4 or 5 of these additional room reveal relics already, which are selling for at least a divine. And then I also got 2 additional room revealed relic, which is selling for 12 to 15 divines currently. So I'm making quite a lot of money off these relics. And then also I get a ton of unique relics, which is overall very fun in my opinion. As I said, I'm running a Shockwave Total build. You should probably not copy my build. I think this is like Mage Blood plus 150 different items plus a Flash and Flame that I personally bought for 40 divs total, which is now completely skyrocketed to like 44 divines for this piece, and I think like 100 something divines, 105, 110 divines for this other piece, which, they were not this pricey when I bought them. But basically, this means that there's like a mirror plus a mage blood in this build, so you probably shouldn't try and copy it. Even in a scuffed version, there's probably some guide out there for Shockwave Totem that is going to do a way better job at explaining things to you than I ever could, and in a way more grounded way than me, who just has like unlimited currency at this point, pretty much. All right, so let's talk about builds. For Sanctum, I think there is a ton of different option of build tons. There are tons of different options for builds. Jesus, that you can use in Sanctum that are going to do absolutely fine or even amazing. Now, as I said, I am a fan of Shockwave Totems because their visual clarity is insane. They don't really have any like skill effect. They don't clutter your screen all too much. They freeze and they deal damage. But there is obviously several other several other playstyles that are going to be doing just as well, if not better, especially on a lower budget. Um, I think probably best are Hexblast mines, or one of the better options if you want to preload damage, or Hexblast mines. They auto target, they have a ton of damage. You can just throw like 17, 20 mines down before you even get to Lycia, deal all that damage in a burst, and then just dodge like a couple mechanics and be done with it. There used to be projectile based mines that were absolutely insane in Sanctum. Now with the nerf of projectiles, basically that make it so that you can only clear a single screen at a time. Um, Projectile based mines have become worse, but there's probably still, if you want to play projectile based mine like Icicle Mine, you can probably still do it. It's probably still good. A skill that I think is really, really good is Spark, especially hit based, crit based. You have all these new things like projectile speed tattoos that make it very, very good. Um, I think a Wet Puddle has like this Aura Stacker Inquisitor thing, which is also really expensive. So, I don't know if you can copy that. But it seems to be absolutely amazing in Sanctums. You have all these little, you can preload sparks in bosses by just casting Spark for a couple of seconds, and then your entire screen is sparks, and then the boss just dies. So Spark is great as well. Probably also one of the options for a budget build where you can like get to 30 million DPS without actually having 30 million DPS just by preloading before the boss. Brands like especially Stormbrand are also a really, really nice option. They're great for the battle rooms because they automatically attach to the next enemy. You can just run around, dodge. Problem is they're also quite expensive to get going, I think. As I said, totems are great. Ice Spear totems is another option that you can use instead of Shockwave totems. But Ice Spear has a lot more visual clutter, so dodging might be a little bit harder. But it's probably also cheaper to get going. For minions, I think Poison SRS is probably your best option. You can just spam out the Poison SRS before the boss fight. They start attacking the boss. You just run around. They apply a dot, so you have the best of both worlds, both minion and a dot. It's gonna be great. If you want to go with a dot build, something like Ethereal Knives is probably also decent once you get to like 15, 20 million dot DPS, because you have no visual clutter at all. And it's really chill to just apply it with EK and then just run around. However, again, you need like 15, 20 million DPS for it to really feel good, in my opinion. If you just want to burst stuff down, something like Tornado Shot is also pretty good. I personally didn't like it. I leak started Lightning Arrow, rolled it into an Omni Tornado Shot by the day like 3 or 4, did a couple Sanctums here and there. I hated the visual clutter. I bought the Ebony Tornado Shot twice, just so I didn't have to deal with all that visual clutter. So it's basically a pay-to-win microtransactions just for Sanctum, by the way. But, if you just have like a high damage tornado shot, it's probably going to do fine in Sanctum. I'm not opposed to it. Same with like high damage spells, like I don't know, like Crackling Lance. If you deal like 30, 40, 50 million damage, it's probably going to be fine. As long as the damage is high enough, basically anything works. Alright. Right. That's about that for builds. Now, the big problem is, while choosing your build, is damage. In my opinion, and this might be controversial because some people think that this is not needed at all to clear Sanctums, but I'm talking about like you never fail Sanctum, you always complete your Sanctum, it doesn't matter which afflictions you get. For that, in my opinion, you need 20 million DPS. Otherwise, you just have to do a lot more mechanics, and it's super annoying. And especially if you want to run something like Uber Lycia, you will have to do a circle like Red Storm phase, where you have to dodge the red lightning thingies. Those you can be unlucky. There's like a bad gap, you like overstep by a millimeter, and boom, your run is done. You lost 2, 3, 4 divines. It just feels horrible. I personally haven't really failed a Sanctum ever since I got to around 30 million damage. I am now at 100 million damage, which is complete overkill. It's like 17 million damage per totem or something stupid like that. 17 million per totem, so 102 million total damage. Completely ridiculous. Absolutely not needed, but it feels amazing now. So, that being said, you should choose a skill that is appropriate for your budget. You can do Tornado Shot in Sanctums, you can get to 20, 30, 40, 50 million with Tornado Shot, but only if you spend, 20 million if you spend like 100 divines. Maybe you can get to 50 million if you spend a mirror and get like a mage bot or something. If you can get to 100 million if you spend several mirrors. That's all possible. It's all great. It all works. But it's not a good idea to start running Sanctums with your 5 million damage tornado shot character and then try to scale from there. It's just not going to it's not going to be a great time. Same with something like Stormbrand, you can get to 20 million pretty easily, but to do so you need like a 50 divine helmet to even get started with the scaling that you want and need for Stormbrand. So on a budget, something like Hexblast Mines, Summon Raging Spirits is probably the most budget friendly. So if you have like 15-20 divines right now, just roll into something like Hexblast, copy something like the Pelstron starter, or what's his name, Captain Lance or something. You should be able to roll into that with your 15-20 divines and start doing Sanctums if you want to do Sanctums. Because I really feel like you should have like a specialized Sanctum build, or something like SRS is probably like the best option you have on a budget. I would have said that Shockwave Totems was a budget-friendly thing too, but the prices have been going absolutely insane the last few days. As I said, for example, I personally paid like maybe a total of 150 divines for my entire build, and Mageblood obviously. And since then, prices have like doubled or even tripled in cases of some gear. So it's been absolutely insane how the prices have risen the last few days. And now Uber Dan has also released a video on his version of Shockwave Totem, which is way more tanky than anything I would ever do, but it's not going to make prices cheaper, I don't think. So yeah, that's that. Alright, let's talk about relics. In my opinion, there's like 3 or 4 options for your normal relics. Your first option is for going for visibility. This is probably the most expensive option. You either need 8 1 divine relics or 8 15 divine relics. The ones I mean are these. The additional room reveal is like 1 to 2 divines, and then 2 additional rooms like 12 to 15 divines. You really want at least 8 of these, and then you can 7 or 8, and then 7 if you want to run the Gilded Chalice, 8 if you want to run the Aura of Divinity with it. I think that's like the minimum you need to really get this strategy going. So this is going to be very expensive. And even I can't afford that right now, or I don't want to afford that right now, and I'm just trying to drop them myself, pretty much. But this is probably the most potential you can get out of Sanctum, where you just see the most rewards and just make the best out of what you get and what you can see. The second option is probably the easiest or cheapest, because if you're starting out, you get random relics, you put those relics in, you start stacking stuff like Maximum Resolve, Inspiration, on floor completion, Inspiration per Affliction. What else is there? There's like there's something like monsters take damage, Maximum Resolve when you kill a boss, monsters impact reduced resolve, etc. Or just stuff like that. Yeah, I think this one was one of the ones that I used pretty early on. That just help you complete your Sanctum. If you have problem completing Sanctum at all. So if you have like 5 to 10 million DPS, you probably can't run all those like wild, unique relic stuff thingies anyways. So you could just go with like whatever you feel like gives you the best shot of completing your Sanctums. Or something like merchant, extra merchant options also works. Yeah, basically it's just about you finishing in the fastest and most comfortable way for yourself. This is not going to add any money to like the end of your run like the other ones are doing, but at least you get to finish Sanctums, which is nice. And that's also the fourth option, where you just add whatever you like best to your personal arsenal. You can like mix and match basically. Now again, as I said at the start of the video, what I am doing is using relic drop quantity relics to try to get the good small relic drops. As I said, there's a like 12 to 15 divine jackpot with the 2 additional room reveals. There's a 1 divine small payout with the 1 additional room reveal. And then you get an occasional 50C relic. So what I do for the rest of my relics is just basically collecting them in like these tabs, so I can vendor them. You can vendor 5 to 1 and get a free extra ID on a relic. So just throw them in like a 50C tab, and then just if no one buys these after a while, I just vendor them. and then I get new relics. So yeah, it's really nice to just get like a ton of relics. The big thing is obviously that you get the an extra. You have a shot at an extra unique relic at the end after you fight Lycia. So that is also pretty much like 0.4, 0.5 divines at the end of every run for free. So yeah, I personally like this a lot right now. Maybe if the prices on these ever drop, I will invest into these, or if I have enough money and don't know what to do with it, I will invest into this and try this out. But right now, I'm really happy with the Relic Quant as well. And as I said, it cost me around 60 divines to buy into. Now, let's talk about unique relics, maybe. There is several different unique relics, some of which are good, some of which are really bad. Bad, I would include these additional tome drops in. The downside on this one is quite bad. You don't know anything about the rooms you're entering. It's basically the same downside as the Chains of Castigation. The Chains of Castigation, however, gives you a 2 divine item. This just gives you 2 forbidden tomes. If you are not playing SSF, you probably don't ever want to run these. Want to run something else instead. Next we have these coin conversion relics. These are absolutely terrible. I've never run one. I will never run more. Sometimes people buy the relic ones for 35 chaos. Maybe the relic conversion one is worth it because you have this jackpot chance, as I said earlier, for the additional room reveals. But it's not something I would ever do. There's also tainted currency. Maybe this was worth it, like right at the start of the league. I don't know. I don't see it being useful at all. So let's get maybe to the ones that are actually worth it. So Chains of Castigation is probably is the one that I started out using the most and that I really enjoyed while it lasted. So you can get the Sandstone Visage on every run if you just don't know which rooms there are by using Chains of Castigation. So you add 2 divines or 1.8 divines after buying Chains of Castigation to every single one of your runs, basically for free. Now, this is also the main problem here might be that you cannot finish the run if you get bad afflictions. So you have to have a build that's good enough to run any affliction. You have to have a build that's good enough to deal with something like 50% more monster life, you deal 40% less damage, and you don't have a good boon to make up for it. You have to be able to do that. So these can be like run-stoppingly bad afflictions because you don't know what you get. But it just adds 2 divines to the end of every run, pretty much. As long as the prices on Sandstone Visage hold up, obviously, if they ever do drop, maybe to like a divine or something, take that into account. Right now, this is one of the better options in my opinion. Next is Uber Lycia, or what I would call Uber Lycia, where you just add 50% more damage to Lycia, and she takes 50% less damage in her last final form. For me, with 100 million damage, this is literally a free 1 divine unidentified jewel that I get at the end of every run, because it doesn't matter at all if Lycia has more life or not. And then you just get, Balance of Terror. Currently unidentified, it sells for like a divine, sometimes 1.2, sometimes 1.3. Whenever I have a bulk of more than 5, I post it somewhere like TFT. Sometimes people buy it for like 1.2, 1.3. Earlier today I sold it for 1 divine. Still, it's quite literally free because you don't have any other downside. You can still see all the rooms. You can still do everything you do usually in Sanctum. It's just that you get this 1 extra divine at the end, which is quite nice in my opinion. So I've been running that one the most. The biggest potential for a payout is probably the currency duplication ones called Gilded Chalice and Hour of Divinity. However, you need to have as many room reveals as possible. Especially on the Gilded Chalice, because you duplicate up to 4 random rewards, which can be quite challenging. It can be quite challenging to even get 4 rewards that are worth duplicating. So often you probably end up with something like 32 chisels that you duplicate and like 2 divines. At that point, it's barely worth it to do this. So you're completely dependent on actually seeing divines, actually doubling divines. However, it also has the jackpot chance of you get like 4 divines at the end of Sanctum without this relic. Suddenly you get 8 divines. technically you could get something like a mirror, duplicate a mirror, never bank on it, but you know, there's like posts on Reddit. Technically, this has like the highest potential. So the downside of this one is that you cannot recover resolve. So if you run this, you want, for example, something like inspiration on your inspiration at the start of your one on your additional room reveals as well. So you have some inspiration buffer, or for this one you cannot gain boons, so you have to be able to complete all your runs without having any boons whatsoever. Can be quite hard. So yeah, keep that in mind. However, as I said, you have the biggest potential for a payout if you play it smart, choose divines at the right times, put the divines in the right slots, and so on and so on. Then this is great. The next problem here is that in the first 3 floors you can never choose the at the end of Sanctum option pretty much on your payouts because you want to aggressively search for divines. If you do take, for example, 20 fusings in the on the first floor, or like 30 chromes, usually, sure, I'll take 4 or 5 chaos payout at the end of Sanctum. Who cares? Just move on, click it, move on. Those add up as well, in my opinion. With these relics, you cannot do that. You have to choose like one of the first 2 rewards, and then in the last floor, the most juicy floor, you probably, if you don't have like the all-seeing eye, or if you don't know like the path you take exactly already, you have the problem that you can't take the end of the floor option even, so you miss out on like 10 sextants or 10 chaos quite often, and that can also add up, in my opinion. However, as I said, if you have the room reveals, this is not as much of a problem, and this has the biggest potential for a payout. And once I actually have, like let's say like 5 relics that have 2 additional room reveals, I will definitely start running these. Currently, I'm just stockpiling them. I think this sells for like 1.6, 1.7 divines on TFT in bulk. This one for 0.8 divines in bulk. I don't think they're going to go down in price, and they are worth it if you have the right setup for it. Next, we have something like this second sacrament thing. Don't run it. It's like 150 chaos staff. It's like uber Lycia. It's like super bad Lycia. I don't know why you would ever run this unless you want the staff in SSF. Maybe at some point the staff gets giga expensive, and then you suddenly want to run this. I don't see that happening. Never on this. One-hit runs. So the original Sin Relic. I will personally sell it if I ever get it. If you can run 1 HP runs, go ahead, do so. I'm not the person to ask. I'd get hit all the time. I don't want to pay that much attention, and I'm bad at the game, so I'm not going to run them. I don't have anything really to say about 1 HP runs. I will just sell that. If you can run them, great. You can probably make mirrors upon mirrors every day by just running 1 HP runs. The Eternal Damnation Relic, I don't have one on me right now, but you need to run % maximum resolve because you cannot gain inspiration or resolve, so you want to start with as much resolve as possible, or gain maximum resolve throughout the Sanctum to finish your run. Problem is, I dislike it's a 4-slot relic, so it's quite hard to fit in if you're running 3 other 4-slot relics, or impossible to fit in if you run 3 other 4-slot relics, which I'm currently doing. So I haven't really played around with it. I think Eternal Damnation, if it's a good roll, it can sell for quite a lot. A friend of mine swears by this relic to run. I personally don't run it, pretty much. Yeah, so that's pretty much everything I have to say about relics, about Sanctum itself. Yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. If you have any further build suggestions, or if you have any experience with Sanctum, especially with how you make these duplication or quadrupling or 4 duplication relics work, feel free to leave a comment. I'm interested as well. In my opinion, you can probably just stack the room reveals, and that's about it, how to maximize these, but I'm open to suggestions there as well. And maybe share your setups, what you liked as well, especially for the people that just started out with Sanctum, what can make their Sanctum runs much easier. That is probably a good thing to have in the comments as well. Anyways, thank you for watching, and I hope to see you soon. Bye!